Hey guys, it's the Kitchen Table Magician. This is episode 5 of Building Blocks of Magic, a series that I have dedicated to mostly for beginners, or if you've been away from the game a long time and are just trying to get back in. Some cards you should pick up. In today's episode, we're going to dedicate to white. These are white staples that I think every casual player or serious player should own. Everything I'm going to talk about is pretty much on a budget, with a few splashy rares, just because they're great cards. But stuff that shouldn't be too hard to find. So today we're going to dedicate to white. White, in my opinion, is the most versatile color as far as pairing with the other 5 colors. It seems like the other 4 colors, green, blue, black, and red, all lack something, and white is always just able to fill in that gap, whether it's creature removal, being able to deal with enchantments or artifacts, or just maintaining some board state for you. You can pair white with any of the other colors and fill in the gaps that those colors are missing. So white pairs most famously with blue. It's the other half of blue-white control. And allows blue to really do what it wants to do as far as controlling the board, because it can just hold down the fort for you. But white also is very good as a standalone color and has a lot of its own strategies. It can be very aggressive or very passive depending on what you're trying to do. So let's take a look at some of the cards. So the first thing I want to talk about is removal, creature control and removal. White is really, really aggressive at this. And this is what I mean when you can pair white with any other color, especially if it's a color that lacks that, most specifically green. And the first card you should pick up is Swords to Plowshares. This is the white removal staple, in my opinion, and you should pick these up. Yes, they can be a little hard to find. They were printed in revised and 4th edition, and then I think they got dropped. Oh no, they had it. Ice Age had it. And then it was dropped, and we didn't see it again, I don't think ever, until Eternal Masters just came out with a reprint. Maybe some offshoot products have it, but so it can be a little bit hard to find, but it's not super expensive. You should be able to pick up a play set of these, for maybe $10 or something, $10, $15. I know that sounds like a lot, but this is a must-have for white. If there's one white card you should get, this is it. Swords to Plowshares. For 1 white mana, remove a creature from the game, and then that creature's controller gains life equal to its power. Extremely powerful. Okay, the other one along those lines is Path to Exile. This is going to be harder to find and much more expensive because it was printed only in Conflux and never again. This is way overdue for a reprint. Maybe they put it in Modern Masters 2017. It's due for a reprint. But if you can find them and get them, Path to Exile is basically a Swords to Plowshares. 1 white mana, exile a creature, except that creature's controller gets to search their library for a basic land and put it into play tapped. So these are the 2 best ones. Look for these. And then Oblivion Ring is another staple that I have. This is an enchantment for white and 2. When it comes into play, you may remove any non-land permanent from the game, and that permanent comes back when Oblivion Ring leaves play. So this will pin down planeswalkers, other enchantments, artifacts. It will pin down everything for you. So these are the 3 first things you should look for as far as removal, as far as white staples go. Then there are other, what I like to call, and then actually most recently Thopter Arrest is kind of an Oblivion Ring-like product. It seems like all the sets have an Oblivion Ring similar kind of an enchantment. So this is from Aether Revolt. This is Thopter Arrest. It's the newest one. It handles creatures and artifacts. Okay. Then let's talk about arrest kinds of enchantments. These are what I like to call arrest effects. Basically, it's an enchantment that will go on a permanent and prevent it from doing things. The first one is Pacifism. It's the first one of its kind. This was in Mirage. Enchanted creature cannot attack or block for white and a generic, and it's an enchantment. So these kinds of things. And then there's Arrest. This was from the second Mirrodin block. Enchant creature. It can't attack or block, and its active abilities can't be activated. So it's just a little bit better than Pacifism, but it does cost you 3. Faith Fetters is probably the best one, and it costs you 4. Enchant any permanent. When Faith Fetters comes into play, you gain 4 life. Enchanted permanents' activated abilities can't be played unless they're mana abilities, and if it's a creature, it can't attack or block. So this is the best one, but it is also the most expensive. But these are what I like to call arrest kind of cards. It just locks things down. So those kinds of things you should look for as well. And then as far as sideboardy kinds of things, like I said, white is really good at dealing with artifacts and enchantments. And Disenchant is the original and probably the one you should just go find. It's an instant, and target enchantment or artifact is destroyed. But it seems like every block has a disenchant kind of a card. This one's from the second Mirrodin block as well. It says exile an artifact or enchantment. So this one's actually probably better because it actually exiles it instead of destroying it for the same cost. So revoke existence is probably the better one, but something like this you should find. And then a couple of strategies. White can be very aggressive. White can also be very passive. White is really good at spitting out a lot of cheap creatures really fast and going wide and getting in for really fast damage. Some examples of this. Elite Vanguard, 1 white mana, a 2/1 creature. Plain and simple. It's a 1-drop with 2 power. That's very, very aggressive. A Krazen Squire, basically the same thing. 1 white, 1/1, but it has Exalted. So when it does attack on the second turn, if it attacks alone, it's a 2/2. So that can be very aggressive. So these kinds of things. This is a 2-drop, 2/1 that flies. And white is just full of this. This is my favorite. This is White Knight. This guy's an all-star. 2 white mana, 2/2, first strike, protection from black. This guy goes all the way back to alpha. This guy's an all-star when it comes to really aggressive. But this is the kind of stuff you should be looking for. Just really cheap 1 and 2 drops with good stats down at the bottom. White is also really good at going wide very cheaply. Raise the Alarm. 2 mana, put 2/1/1 white soldier creature tokens on the battlefield. I play with these in a lot of white decks. Midnight Haunting. For 3 mana, you get 2/1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying. Spectral Procession. This one was from the Shadowmoor days. It's got the split mana symbols, but basically 3 white. You get 3/1/1 white spirit creature tokens with flying. Sen's Enlistment, also from the Lorwyn Shadowmoor days. This is 4 mana, put 2/1/1 Kithkin soldiers into play, but here's the deal. It has Retrace, so you can discard lands from your hand and play this from your graveyard. So you can play this one multiple times in a game, so that can add up. And then another one of my favorites from the original Zendikar block, this is called Conqueror's Pledge. Put 6/1/1 white core soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield for 5 mana. You can kick it. I've never done that. 6 is a lot of creatures. So you can see where you can just get a lot of tokens out and go really wide. And why this is really good in white is that white has a lot of some of the best anthems. And by anthems, I mean enchantments and effects that will boost the stats of your entire army simultaneously. The first one of these was Crusade. This is probably not the one I would recommend picking up. I just wanted to show it to you. This was from Alpha, Beta, Revised. And it says all white creatures get +1/+1. So Crusade was really good unless you got into it with another white player. Then Crusade wasn't all that great because then both sides of the table got beefed up. So Wizards did make an improvement on this. This is M10. This is called Honor of the Pure. And it says white creatures you control get +1/+1. So this is the one I would go get if I were you. And the other one that I play with a lot is called Glorious Anthem. And it says creatures you control get +1/+1. Regardless of their color. It beefs your entire army up. So these are the kinds of things that will help you if you want to go wide with a token strategy. It also helps you if you're doing with an aggro strategy too, because it gives your entire army the bonus. Or white can be very passive. White is really good at stalling things up. You already saw the arrest spells. To go along with those, I play with Ghostly Prison a lot. This is an enchantment much like Propaganda that we saw in blue. It's basically the white version. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 for each creature they control that's attacking you. Story Circle is another fun one. Originally, there was called Circle of Protections in Alpha Beta. They were even printed in Ice Age and maybe Mirage. I'm not sure. But it basically there was a story, or there was a circle of protection for each color, so you could sideboard in and out depending on what your opponent was playing. Story Circle is a little more versatile. Does cost you 1 more. But you can choose the color as Story Circle comes into play, and then you pay 1 white, and the next time a source of your choice of the color you chose would deal damage to you this turn, that damage is prevented. So this is the kind of thing that white does to just kind of stall the board up and be more of a control-y kind of a color. It's also good at tapping things down. A couple of examples of that are Gold Metal Harrier and Banalish Trapper. They read white, tap a creature. So white can be very passive and very control-y and grindy, as well as being very aggressive, depending on what kind of a strategy you want. All right, so the thing that white is the most famous for, and by that I mean the most famous for, is just overall, we're going to clean up the entire board and just reset the table. And the first spell I'm going to talk about doing that with is Wrath of God. This is the first one of its kind. This is Alpha Beta again. This was printed in 4th edition as well, and then I don't think we saw it again until 7th. I think 7th had a printing of it, and then 10th edition had a printing of it. So, I mean, there have been various core sets that have printings of this, and then it was in Eternal Masters this year, so got a reprint there. This is a card you should go get if you're going to play white. Wrath of God is one of the iconic definitive cards of the color white. And it's a sorcery that reads, all creatures are destroyed. A Day of Judgment is basically Wrath of God with a new name. This was from Zendikar, but same thing. Same mana cost, sorcery, destroy all creatures. Day of Judgment will be a little harder to find, because I think it was only printed in Zendikar and nowhere else. But find those. And then also, most recently, it seems like every other block has a version of Wrath of God in it. And so Kaladesh being no exception, they printed Fumigate. Basically a Wrath of God, but it does cost you 1 more. And it says destroy all creatures. You gain 1 life for each creature destroyed this way. So look for these kinds of cards. White is full of them across the entire history of the game. You should be able to find something like this to play with. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about is the most iconic, I guess, tribe or creature type for white, and those are the angels. The first one and oldest of those is the Serra Angel, and this one is from Revised Edition. This is my favorite painting and probably one of my favorite creatures of all time in any color. 2 white and 3 flying, 4/4 and vigilance. So I've got several of her. This is my a foily M10 version. The old artwork is still my favorite. And this, like I said, Serra Angel is one of my favorite cards of all time. This goes along with like dragons as far as being just iconic creature type. And this is whites. So angels come in all forms and sizes. They pretty much all fly. And they're some of the cards in here are going to be a little more expensive. I wouldn't recommend go getting them. I just wanted to share them with you. But Linvala, the Keeper of Silence, 3/4 flying, activated abilities of creatures that your opponents control can't be activated. Blinding Angel, 2/4 flying. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player skips their next combat phase. So you can see where white angels could just be very grindy for your opponent, just slowing things down so much. Battle Grace Angel, 4/4 flying. This has Exalted, so it could potentially be a 5/5 flyer if it attacks alone. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains lifelink. So this is this could potentially be 5/5 flying with lifelink for 5 mana. So this is really good. I mean, angels are just so much fun. Requiem Angel, this one costs 6. It's 5/5 flying. When another non-spirit creature you control dies, put 1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So this could play into a token strategy for you. And then the Queen of the Angels, the baddie of the baddie, the hardest to find, probably the most expensive one, Akroma Angel of Wrath. I just love this card. I love the artwork on this, and she's just all that in a bag of chips. 6/6 flying, first strike, trample, haste, protection from black, protection from red, and vigilance. So, but she's 5, 6, so 8 mana. But this is the kind of thing I'm talking about when you want to put a win condition on the board when you're playing a grindy control deck. This is a win condition kind of a card. So that's white. Hope you enjoyed this series. I'm probably going to add more episodes in Artifacts and maybe multicolor strategies, but thanks for watching.